Disney can make good legacy sequels. They can actually put effort in and not make piles of crap that dump all over its predecessor. They can make movies that are actually entertaining in live action. Well, this is news to me, let me tell you. Now, for those of you that didn't already see my original review of this movie's predecessor, which you can find on the card right up here, I am a huge fan of the original Freaky Friday. Well, original is in the 2003 remake of Freaky Friday based on a 90s movie that I haven't seen yet. But for this case, and for the sake of simplicity, we are going to be calling the 03 Freaky Friday the original. That's the one I'm talking about. And that movie is a cult classic. It's a childhood gem of mine, along with Sky High. It's one of those movies that I have just watched a lot since I was a kid, despite not being part of its target demographic very clearly, even as a kid. But I still loved it then, and I still love it now. It's still a very entertaining film that I will never stop watching, and I will never get sick of. Again, just like Sky High. However, after years and years and years of Disney just sitting on their hands and putting out crap, they actually decided, okay, let's finally make a sequel to this, bring back the original two actresses, and try to actually be faithful to the original. Now, obviously, hearing this announcement, I wanted to be excited, but after the absolute disaster of Hocus Pocus 2, not to mention the very underwhelming and crushingly disappointing remake of Haunted Mansion from 2023, which is still a piece of crap, I was scared to death that this was going to be another one of those movies that I was just going to rage about, because it's a movie that's a legacy sequel to an already established Disney classic that's being made decades later, and we've seen, because of, again, Hocus Pocus 2, that they can turn into horrible, horrible dumpster fires. And thank the heavens I don't have to say it about this one, because while it did start slow and it took about 20-25 minutes to actually get going, once it did, I had a blast, dude. Like, Freakier Friday is actually a great sequel, and one of the best Disney movies we've gotten in a while, because it's not a piece of crap. It's actually funny. It's actually entertaining. There's actual freaking effort being put in here. Like, I know, mind-blowing concept, right? Okay, I'm done with the sarcasm. Here's my written review for Freakier Friday. It's long, it's very detailed, and I tried to keep spoilers out of it, but I may not have dived into it a little bit, so watch at your own discretion. Here we go. To say that I was scared to death about this one is a massive understatement, because following the unwatchable disaster of Hocus Pocus 2 and the crushing disappointment of their second failed adaptation of The Haunted Mansion, I didn't want this company to ever touch this childhood cult classic ever again. Which is also why part of me is glad they're never touching Sky High again, because I feel like they would find ways to screw it up. And not to mention they already failed at living up to that name prior with the garbage 2019 remake from Disney Channel, so I had bottom of the barrel expectations and fully expected this to be just another desperate cash grab from corporate to milk more money out of the fans with their egregious nostalgia baiting. However, after watching the trailer, seeing Lindsay Lohan coming back after years of her own personal struggles, which in itself is wonderful to see, I'm so glad she's back and I'm glad she's doing better, and the intriguing premise of having a 4-way body swap instead of just 2, I managed to feel slightly more hopeful about it. And then, of course, IRL stuff and busy months of content creating for YouTube here consistently, unfortunately, kept me from being unable to experience it in theaters when it came out back in August. Yeah, that's how late I am to this movie. It came out in August, and it's taken me until freaking November to get to it. I'm sorry. But now, with the schedule mostly cleared up, outside of, again, some backlog stuff, but that's going to be really easy, and IRL stuff under control for the time being, I finally sat down and watched it. And I can't believe the words that are about to come out of my mouth, but I actually not just liked this movie, I loved this movie. Like, no joke, straight up loved this movie. Not only as a sequel to the original, not only as Disney's first good legacy sequel probably ever, but also as just a fun, quirky, goofy comedy with a collision between the old and the new. Like, it's one of those movies that does boomer jokes and jokes about Gen Z, and both of them are actually funny and not cringe. Lohan and Curtis are still amazing as Anna and Tess, with so much chemistry that's like they never even left. Especially Lindsay Lohan, which is a delight to see being full of so much joy again. Like, you could tell from the bloopers at the end of this movie, which we'll talk about, don't worry, that she was full of so much joy and life again and genuinely excited to be back on screen and back working as an actress. I'm not going to go into her full personal struggle story because that's none of my business, but go look it up for yourself if you are curious. But she has gone through a lot of stuff over the years. But thankfully, it seems like she's gotten her life back together, she's doing a lot better now, and she's using this movie as her big comeback, which, yeah, smart move on her part, since it's arguably her most well-known role outside of Mean Girls. Julia Butters and Sophia Hemmings were fantastic as the new stepdaughters, and seeing their journey of development throughout was great, as was Manny Jacinto as Anna's fiance, which was surprisingly much better than expected considering he's a side role. And usually with side roles of dad characters in movies that are not the focus, they're very hit or miss. However, Manny Jacinto, or Jacinto, however you pronounce your name, I'm sorry, you did a great job with the material that you were given to work with, despite being a side role. You did a great job, and you actually made me like your character. Mark Harmon was a welcome surprise to see in a project outside of NCIS, and worked great off of Curtis as Ryan. That was a huge surprise to me, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mark Harmon was not in the original. So, him being here is definitely a big, big surprise, because obviously, most of us know him as Gibbs from NCIS. Like, that's his most well-known role. That's always going to be his most well-known role. But seeing him in a movie that like this that's so different from what he usually does, it's a treat. Like, it's definitely a treat. And it's very interesting how great he actually works off of Jamie Lee Curtis and her comedy. Speaking of, the comedy and slapstick in this movie is amazing, with pretty much every single joke or physical gag landing a big laugh out of me. That's the one thing that I was scared that this movie was going to mess up badly, and they did the opposite. Like, this movie's actually really damn funny, and not in like the unintentionally cheesy, corny way of some other movies, but more so because it's like actual, genuinely good comedy writing. And again, it has jokes against boomers and against Gen Z, but at the same time, they do them in a way where it's not cringe and they're actually funny. Like, they're actual well-written jabs at one another's generations. Which is so rare to see, especially in comedy nowadays. Music was a great mix of old classics and newer hits that fit each scene well. Yes, unfortunately, Hot to Go by Chappell Roan's not in the movie, not even in the end credits, which was a bummer because it was one of the things that surprised me in the actual trailer. They actually used such a really good pop song like that. But the songs that they did use in here were really good. And we even get a second version of Take Me Away, done by Lindsay and I believe Julia? Yeah, Julia and Lindsay. And they are excellent. Like, that is another really good version of this song. And that is a song I do want to cover at some point. I'm not sure when, but I definitely want to at some point. It's a great song that is very close to my childhood. Tone was delightfully goofy and self-aware of its quirkiness. Like, that's what makes comedies like this work the best, when they know exactly what they are and just have fun. That's one of the reasons why I liked Happy Gilmore 2, despite everyone else crapping on it, because it knew what it was, and it just had fun being as over-the-top and goofy as possible. Whereas this, it's the same deal. It's a movie that's self-aware, that knows what it is, and doesn't try to be any more than it is. And because of that, it's able to actually be funny, and the quirks and the goofiness all fit into the tone of the movie very well. It doesn't feel out of place. Again, it's so weird to say this about a Disney live-action legacy sequel that's not a piece of garbage. It's such a weird thing. The homages to the original are genuinely wonderful and don't feel too intrusive. Like, there are some moments where maybe they could have left the nostalgia out, but the times that they do use it, they use it in a mostly pretty smart manner. I already mentioned how we get another version of Take Me Away at the end of the movie, but there's also a bunch of other nods to the original. They brought back some other characters from the original, including the freaky fortune teller from the original, which, yeah, color me surprised. I didn't think they would ever bring her back, but that line was pretty funny. And of course, some lines from the actual script and the characters' dialogue being references or slightly different spins on lines from the original. So, yeah, they did a good job in that department, believe it or not. Pacing is fast but inconsistent. Well, fast but consistent, I'm sorry. It's fast. It definitely is one of those movies that doesn't really take much time to breathe, but it's consistent. It's consistently fast all the way through, even at the end where they do the normal third act breakup crap. So, no complaints from me. This movie flew by pretty quick. Rewatchability is high, along with the original, and the emotional moments all landed nicely, adding an unexpected amount of depth into the narrative. Like, yeah, it's a goofy comedy, but sometimes the best of goofy comedies can also have really nice emotional moments. Like, for example, take a movie I mentioned in the last review, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That scene where Martin Short just goes hard on John Candy's character. And then Candy's response back is, well, I like me. My wife likes me. You know, great writing like that. And it also has great emotional gravitas despite, again, being a goofy comedy. Sometimes goofy comedies need that emotional center to still be somewhat entertaining and believable. Not to mention to make us feel invested in the characters. So, no complaints from me there. Really good job there. Also, huge thanks to this movie for bringing back mid-credit bloopers for some extra laughs. We rarely ever get these anymore. Not just in comedies, but in movies in general. We rarely ever get mid-credit bloopers in movies. It's an art that sadly died, and I'm so pissed that it did, because it is one of the reasons that makes me like certain comedy movies even more than I already did as the full movie itself. Seeing the fun and joy that everyone has on screen to the point of messing up their lines or coming up with really funny, goofy jokes that take everyone else off guard and they laugh and they have to recut the scene. It's one of the reasons why I love Rush Hour so much, because it's one of those movies that has those bloopers at the end, and the bloopers are almost, if not even funnier, than the movie itself. Seriously, bring back mid-credit bloopers. We need to make that a thing again. Like, screw mid-credit scenes, those are done to death. Bring back mid-credit bloopers and show us how much fun everyone's having on set. Just a personal preference thing. Sure, it starts out a little slow. Like I said, it takes 20 to 25 minutes for the story to actually get going, but once it does, it doesn't let up. Some jokes are hit or miss. Like, a grand majority of this movie's jokes are funny, but there are a few that either go over your head or just don't quite land. But to be fair, it's then shortly followed up by a joke that does land not long after, so yeah, you know what? Not a big problem. And the story is pretty predictable. It's predictable, it's simple, it's straightforward. It's pretty much the same story as the original, but with a 4-way body swap instead of a 2-way body swap. But again, that is all it really needed to be. It didn't need to really be anything super extravagant for a sequel. Especially one that is relying a lot on nostalgia. But honestly, when it's this much fun to watch, I don't care. Not to mention that it's a miracle all by itself that it's not a flaming car wreck. Again, because of how bad Hocus Pocus 2 was, I went into this expecting a flaming car wreck, and yet I came out the other side with probably one of my most enjoyable Disney movie watches in a long time. Like, Disney, make more stuff like this instead of your usual garbage. I promise you, you would be much better off with it. So, nostalgia be damned. I had a spectacular time with this sequel, and it's easily one of the company's best live-action films in a long time. And honestly, probably one of their best movies of this entire decade. Just speaking honestly here. Can't believe I'm saying it, but Disney did good on this one. Very highly recommended, and it just might sneak into the year-end best list on pure enjoyability alone. Like, this movie was so much fun, man. Like, it was so surprising. Yes, it started out a little slow. Yes, not every joke landed, but once it got going and once the jokes did start landing, I just had a big, stupid smile on my face the entire way through. Add on some nice emotional gravitas, great acting from both the old returning actors and the new addition actors, and you're left with a very entertaining film. I know some people were kind of maybe lukewarm on this one. It doesn't have a high IMDb score of anything like that, but if you do like the original, I think this is one movie that you will definitely enjoy as well. It stays true to the spirit while also giving it its own unique spin. So, yeah, a very surprisingly positive review for a Disney movie made in this decade because it's not a piece of crap. Thank you for showing you still have some people that are still competent. Final verdict for Freakier Friday is a high, unexpected, but very well deserved 9 out of 10. Really enjoyed this one. I think you will too. Very highly recommended. Will it make the year-end best list? There's a possibility, but we shall see because there's been a lot of great movies this year. Like, this is one of the best years in film in recent memory, or at least of this decade, because there's just been so much great stuff this year, man. Like, making the best list this year is going to be very, very hard, but I will still try my best. But that's all for this review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this almost every single day. And feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below if you so desire. And of course, hit the hype button if you also so desire to get us higher up in the algorithm. But that's all I've got for this very long review of this surprisingly great sequel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for a slightly different brand of comedy with the Naked Gun requel, reboot, sequel thingy.